Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Aggieville Alleycats podcast. Where come rain, shine, or anything in between, we're here to deliver to you the Kansas State sporting news that you so love. I'm Ace Edwards, right alongside
Connor Baltazar.
And boy, has the portal decided to pick up this week. We have a lot to cover in terms of especially basketball portal, but we are going to start off with the itinerary is football portal entry, singular as of this point. The 3 basketball entries for the men's side, the 1 new commit for both the men's and women's team, and then, of course, the batcats. But let's just start off with the first bit of news, and that is the exit of Noah King. He's entering the transfer portal. He's a true freshman this year. I mean, this is one of those situations where it was, okay, we hardly knew ye, so fine. I mean, this is the same class with JoJo Scott in it. If JoJo Scott was asked to leave, Connor, you know I would be pissing my pants. But
Yeah, it does stink because he is a 4-star with athletically a very high ceiling. But you very rarely, even in the portal era, are seeing true freshmen that have just made it to campus kind of getting pushed out. And those are the entries that are happening right now, really across college football. Even Nico, Tennessee, granted, it was also because of his subpar negotiating tactics, but he was kind of pushed out in that situation as well. That's pretty much everything you're seeing right now, and I think the same is probably true for Noah King. But of course, it's this is a very, very cutthroat offseason with the anticipated significant reduction in roster limits down to 105. So K-State, I think, is somewhere in the 20 to 25 over that limit. So there's a lot of players that I think K-State would prefer to keep that they're going to lose. And there's probably some they're not too upset about losing. But yeah, he's the first true freshman to enter. There's been a few others too. Trey Davis entered. Zayden Martinez entered, and Brock Wolf entered. So there you have a redshirt freshman who didn't really break through in Trey Davis, and then a couple of walk-ons that were probably told that they just weren't going to see playing time. So, but we're probably going to be seeing a ton of these over the next several weeks, if I had to guess.
Yeah, especially with even though the 105 scholarship limit seems to be kind of in flux with how the House settlement is going, we can't get into that, not because we are incapable, but because I don't feel like committing the next 7 hours to researching the ins and outs of that specific settlement and what the judge specifically took issue with it, because we're both law students, but there are only so many hours in a day. So
yeah, I haven't been keeping too heavy of an eye on it. I mostly am picking up the headlines, but it didn't get just rubber stamped and approved. It looks like the judge is kind of pushing for maybe some changes, which maybe that'll happen, maybe it won't. I couldn't even begin to speculate on that issue, but it's teams, regardless, though, are operating as if that is what's going to happen. I'm pretty sure West Virginia had 20 players enter the portal yesterday. They just got a big wave, and they just cut everybody at once. I think K-State might be going gradual, but either that or we're just not forcing guys into the portals quickly. Rich Rod, I guess, does not have time for nonsense. So,
yeah, I mean, it's like his offense. It goes very quickly all the time, always and forever. But that, like you said, that's the first of the portal entries. We'll probably end up seeing more. So next weekly recap, I'm sure we'll have to bring up a few more names. But we already have a few names to bring up for the men's transfers out. I'm just going to name all 3 quickly. Byfall, Ugana Onyenso, and Doug McDaniel. it's amazing how a team has basically caused me to check out. What is it? That's 7 months before their season's even started.
Yeah, just about maybe 6.5. Yeah, it'll be 6.5. They'll play an exhibition game late October, early November. So not that it really matters, but
I mean, Byfall and Ugana and Yenso were both kind of expected because neither of them played and both of them were getting pretty significant paydays to come to K-State, and neither were contributing in any meaningful capacity outside of the like 3 hilarious blocks that Ugana and Yenso had. The one that really hurts was Doug McDaniel, and I mean, because that was probably going to be the piece that we built around for this upcoming offseason. And now he's gone. And I struggle to say that I don't care at all, because this is a K-State sports team. I'm going to care at least a little bit. But the tremendous fall that K-State men's basketball has had on like my caring power rankings should be studied in like a psychology or a sociology study, because it's genuinely down there with soccer now. Like I can't find myself to get emotionally invested right now. And maybe that's just because 2 bad seasons in a row and how college basketball in particular has been going on lately. And that's like, I can wax poetic about it all I'd like and, talk about the good old days like I wasn't born in 2000. But I can't make myself care anymore.
yeah, I'm very conflicted on how I feel, because ultimately at the end of the day, I want nothing but success for the men's team. So I will always hope for that. And there's a couple of there's like Abdi Bashir is a solid transfer ad. Like, I think objectively, despite his flaws, like he does something that we kind of struggled with this year, which is being a shot creator. So if nothing else, like that'll be interesting. But my emotions towards next year's men's roster for basketball is, I would say, more in the realm of curiosity right now than excitement. Like I'm interested to see the roster they put together, not because I expect things to go well, but because it's a K-State roster and I'll be watching anyways, and I'm just kind of curious to see how things come together, if at all, because Doug, yeah, like Ace said, he was gonna be like the guy that like we were gonna rely on to kind of hold everything together, which, hindsight 2020, maybe the guy that we pretty much benched for the first 2 months of the season shouldn't have been the glue guy going into the off season. Now, cutting bait, eventually, maybe not the worst choice, but it's another thing where I think maybe we waited a little too long on that, and now put ourselves in maybe a more difficult position than was necessary. But maybe we should have been more willing to make a decision on that earlier rather than later. But time will tell on that. I don't know. I don't really have the interest, the energy to just be overly like negative. Not because I don't think it's valid. Like, there's going to be people that do that, and I think I'm not going to tell people to not be upset about the state of the men's basketball program. Like, that would be a silly thing to do. But I still, I'll be tuning in no matter what. I'm a glutton for punishment. I watched the first half of K-State at Baylor in the COVID season, where the commentators at one point yelled at our team and said, "Have some pride, K-State," because that's how bad we were playing. And that also, that half of basketball is home to one of the funniest moments in K-State basketball history, because we were down like 50 to like 17 or something like that. And Antonio Gordon hits a half-court buzzer beater at the end of the half to cut the lead to like 30, which that'll be a forever K-State legend is Antonio Gordon, specifically against Baylor in the COVID season. He went absolutely nuts against those guys in the COVID season, and that's really about it. That's a bit of a departure from what we're talking about, but I was thinking about that the other day, and I found a way to work it into the conversation now. So
That's good. I mean, it was a very funny moment. I will say that if you're looking for any reason to be optimistic, one of the biggest college basketball insiders, Trilly Donovan, basically said something to the effect of, "I hope you haven't spent all your money yet," which indicates to me that there's about to be just an influx of highly talented guys that are just looking for paydays. And all the news has been that despite the performance of this last year, there still will be significant donor support to K-State. So if you're looking for a reason to be optimistic, there it is, I guess. But I don't share that optimism.
Yeah, the boosters are stronger willed than I am, which I think part of it is that, if nothing else, like if we want to look at this just cold logic, maybe they want to demonstrate that even if you have a rough season, the money's still going to be there for the next coach. So they aren't going to have to worry about, like one bad season, the money dries up. Like they want to show there's going to be consistent support, which I think is something that could be valuable. It's a little bit cold and maybe getting out over my skis a little bit by about 11 months, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But I don't know. I would prefer that Jerome Tang be successful at K-State, because that means K-State's winning games. So that's my first preference, is that the current staff figure it out and everybody is happy and we ride off into the sunset with like 10 natties or something like that.
That'd be nice, because I still think that Jerome Tang is like a genuinely good person, and I want to see him succeed on a personal level. I just have sincere doubts about it happening, but maybe the portal ad will help out a little bit, and that's the UNC Wilmington forward, Kamari McGriff. I think he also goes by Christian McGriff, but I'm just going to go by what's on ESPN, which is Kamari. And he was a player this last season who averaged about why am I having trouble finding points?
11
There we go.
Yeah.
He averaged 11.5.
Are you looking at Sports Reference? Because if so, they do put it in a weird spot.
I was looking at ESPN and it was on the far right, which is not where I expected it to be.
Sports Reference does the exact same thing. I don't know why they do that, because that's generally the first stat people are looking for. But I digress.
Yeah. He averaged 11.5 this last season, a block. Honestly, like I was about to say something that's an opinion. 2 fouls a game and 4 rebounds. Fine. I mean, at this point we need warm bodies, because a developmental piece that we had decommitted, sounded like it was mutual. Cool. This seems like a good ad. We're not throwing out Taj out there, I guess.
Yeah. That's kind of about how I feel on this ad. I wouldn't really say that I'm moved either direction, but I think this is the sort of ad that if we had gone out and gotten like a star point guard and like one other really good player, adding this guy, I think we would have been really happy with, because we're like, yeah, we need these end of the bench guys, or like guys that are going to like occasionally have like a 15-point game, which I think is probably what he's going to be. But like, since he's like one of our early ads, we're just kind of like, whatever. Like, so maybe if the portal cycle goes well, we'll look back on this a little bit more fondly. So I'm trying to take it in that context of this isn't supposed to be the guy, and I'm going to try and look for a few positives to draw from him. Which he shot a really high percentage from the field on 7.5 attempts per game, 65%. Really good. Not really a 3-point shooter. Only took, I think, like 2 or 3 the entire season. Not a fantastic rebounder either, and a bit undersized, 6'8", only 175. So that's another very scrawny player that we're going. I don't know why we're doing that a lot this offseason. Just kind of weird because Bashir's like 160 or something like that.
He's like 6'10", 160. Like, if you are above 6'4" and you don't weigh like 200 pounds, you are a stick of bamboo.
Yeah, so I don't know what the end goal is for Kamari McGee, but he's a big, so he'll be playing the 4, the 5, or something. I'm not really sure if we label our defensive positions like that, but he'll be a big, and I don't know. He, at the very least, on his 2-point field goal, shoots pretty high percentage. He had a pretty good game against KU this year as well. Shades of a chore.
Well,
let's hope he sticks around longer than a chore. Either that, or maybe he'll become the next K-State rec legend. Also like a chore. But because I saw him at the rec a handful of times this spring, and yeah, he was destroying dudes. So.
Hey, that works for him. If it works, it works. But now we can talk about the team that I actually have a lot of optimism for. And it's both optimism and intrigue. I think I've made this comp before that this next year's women's basketball team is very similar to this year's baseball team, where it's just going to be a lot of young guns. But adding a player like we just added in Tess Heel, transfer from Stanford, I think that this goes a long way towards sort of being able to ease some of those younger players into Division I big time basketball, because Tess Heel originally started her career at Santa Clara, where she averaged 18 and 19 points per game respectively, and shot, at least 2 or 3 threes a game. Then goes to Stanford, shot 50% from 3 in about 22-ish minutes, give or take, 8 points in that time frame. So really all around solid player who's probably looking to get a bounce back from, because Stanford is in one of those sort of tier 1B of the college basketball or women's college basketball realm, at least to me. So this is a really good pickup to me. And she's also an Australian. So shout out to the second Australian in the show's lifetime to play for the K-State women's basketball team. No disrespect to Rebecca Dallinger, but I hope that Tess Heel is significantly better than Rebecca Dallinger.
Yeah, apparently Rebecca Dallinger played a role in getting her here, which I wasn't going to mention anything about that, but I did see it online because I was like, I don't want to assume all Australians know each other, but apparently they do to some degree. But yeah, she's, I think, a quality add. Stanford did have a honestly pretty bad year. This year they went 16-15, but historically they've been a really good program, one of the best in the country. But I'm pretty sure, they just got a new coach because Tara Vanderveer retired after last year. So yeah, they went from 30-6 last year to 16-15 this year. So that's quite the steep drop for the Cardinal. But yeah, Tess Heel was fantastic at Santa Clara. At almost 20 a game as a sophomore is what she was scoring. A very good free throw shooter as well. So I'm hopeful that she'll bring some leadership to the team, because we really do need it right now. Because Taryn and Kennedy, question mark, are going to be some of the only true vets on this team.
Yeah, and I still think that there's room on the team to get more portal ads. And I mean, I just think next year's team is going to be interesting. If the roster stayed as it is right now, I think that they would just sort of remain in the interesting / at least fun category with, I think it's 3 top 60 and 2 top 45, I think, at least to ESPN Hoops, because Spicer's 16, I think Foy is 45 or 46, and then Harad is 88. So it really exciting freshman class. You just kind of watch them figure it out, but obviously that's not the strategy here. The strategy is get girls to sort of backfill and give them space to grow and not throw them into the fire. Because this is the men's team, I will acknowledge that, but David Castillo was one of the most disappointing players in our time doing the show, just by virtue of getting preseason hype and then immediately getting thrown into the fire when they are not ready. I think Spicer and Foy could survive. I don't think either of them would get David Castillo'd, but I don't want to risk that.
I think Spicer and Foy are probably going to be ready to go, honestly. I think back to 21, where we had Serena and the Glenn twins in the starting lineup, and they were all up to the task. You are right that David Castillo was a very disappointing season this year for him. Just really not good. But I mean, Spicer's also a 5-star, and I think it's fair to expect a 5-star to come in and be ready to play. And Foy, I think, is someone that might be underrated, and I think that she could be ready. Brandy Harrod, I have no idea because she's just a new recruit. I'm not going to come out and expect her to be. Gina Garcia from Spain, again, maybe going to be ready because of her international experience in the EuroLeague. Maybe won't be. I'm not really sure, but I don't know. We've had some success with young players in the past, and I think that maybe some of them could be ready, some of them might not be. But regardless of whether they are or aren't, we still need more veterans on this team.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we talk about the Batcats, this is just kind of a weird, first off, Eliza Maupin went to Nebraska. Sucks, but fine. The real question mark to me is Gisela Sanchez ending up at Notre Dame.
That was a head scratcher to me. Now, I can't say that I didn't think Gisela wouldn't end up at the very least a low end high major, just kind of a bottom feeder in a Power 4 conference. But Notre Dame, I think it exemplifies the I'll say culture difficulties that they've been dealing with. I mean, they lost, I think, one player to the draft. The projected number 1 pick in next year's NBA draft hit the portal rather than stay at Notre Dame or go pro. And she ended up at TCU, of course. And so it's they're kind of rebuilding from scratch there, with the exception of Hannah Hidalgo, who is one of the best players in the country, but it seems that nobody really wants to play with her for some reason. I don't know why. But so Gisela got, I think, maybe a better offer than maybe she was thinking she was going to get. So good for her on that front.
Yeah. What I will say about Hannah Hidalgo is I would love to see a conversation where it is just her and Sedona Prince locked in a room. I just kind of want to see how that conversation would go.
There's a lot I could say, but I'm going to leave it at that.
Yeah, I think that's for the best for both of us. Anyway, now we can talk about the Batcats, who had a weekend series up against UCF and then had a rare midweek series up against Northeastern. We'll start with the UCF series. K-State ends up taking 2 of 3. And to be honest, the weekend looked like it was not going to be going that way at the beginning, after K-State in the first game got just absolutely exploded, 15-3. I mean, Jacob Frost had to leave in the first inning. It was just a really, really, really bad day at Toynton for K-State. Ends up using 6 total pitchers. None of them escape without giving up an earned run. It was over early, and I don't really want to dwell on it because outside of a Seth Dardar home run, there's nothing really good to take from it.
Yeah, I think the most notable stat that can be shared about this game is that UCF as a team in this game went 20 for 44 and drew 6 walks as well, and also 2 hit by pitches. So we also grounded into 6 double plays. So it was not a banner day by any stretch of the imagination for the Batcats. This was probably the worst game of the year. And I don't know if it's even close. But yeah, Ace is right. This one, we were down 5-0 before we even had 3 outs in the first inning. We actually did kind of claw it back, got it to 5-3, and then we didn't score the rest of the game, and UCF did a lot of that. So yeah, this game sucked.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it anymore. Now we can talk about the games that they actually won, including the Day 2 matchup where K-State ends up winning 3-1 off the back of, yes, they scored 3 runs, but I think the real winner here was the performance of Michael Cavedo. Yeah, he did well, but James Guyette pitching 4 1/3 innings, not giving up a single hit, not walking anybody. He just straight up Iron Manned the back half, literally half of the game. And outside of a hit by pitch, UCF was unable to touch him.
Yeah. The starting pitching has been pretty shaky and, if nothing else, pretty consistently inefficient. Of course, with one pretty huge exception that we're going to talk about here in the next game. But Guyette was absolutely fantastic and unhittable. And I think what's telling is Cavedo goes 4 2/3. Guyette goes 4 1/3. Cavedo, in just 1/3 of an inning more, took 82 pitches to Guyette's 47. So Guyette was just a machine against UCF in this game, the back half. He's been really excellent this year. So big shout out to him. And yeah, it was not a great offensive day. K-State did put together 10 hits, but only gets 3 runs out of it, but that was enough.
Yeah. And seriously, that's 47 pitches to go 4 1/3 is like turning down the difficulty in MLB The Show. That's ridiculous. That is so hilariously efficient as to be just comical. But in terms of notable offensive performances, Connor, there any you want to point out? I noticed there's a few 2 for 3 games, 2 for 4.
Yeah, there's a handful of solid games here. Bear Madliak, he goes 2 for 4. Sam Flores, who had kind of been coming on the last couple of weeks, he goes 2 for 3 in this game. So a solid outing for him. He was pinch run for Caden Carl at one point in the 6th inning, and Caden Carl was brought home on an AJ Avasco double. But those are really the 2 major notable performances. AJ, of course, getting the 2 RBI double in this one, but it was a lot of outs in this one, and granted, a decent amount of hitting, but just couldn't really string them together for the most part, which I think was frustrating probably for the K-State offense. But you come out with a win and a fantastic day for pitching. Helps a lot.
Yeah, I mean, you take wins however they come to you. Then the next day, K-State ends up winning 8-6, and this was, you hear 8-6, it's like, oh, it must have been a really bad pitching day. No, and one person had a bad pitching day. The other one had a perfect game through 6.
Just about, I think, yeah.
Yeah, so you can talk about the pitchers.
Yeah, and Lincoln Sheffield had an incredible start in this game. He went 7 innings, only 79 pitches, 2 hits, 1 earned run, 1 walk, and 5 strikeouts. I did not give up a run until the 7th inning, so he was through 6 perfect. And it was No, he was through 5 perfect, I think, because they UCF had that weird play out in center where it like, bounced off Dante Lewis's glove. Keegan O'Connor catches it barehanded, and but they ruled that it had bounced off the wall, and so because of that, he got a double out of it. And so it was a very strange way to break a perfect game, like to be like I think almost 6 innings through, and break it up on a very odd technicality that needed to be reviewed. Kind of a dull thud, because like you're kind of starting to sit up in your chair at that point. Like I might be at like the game for like Lincoln Sheffield, and that happens, and that's just really disappointing. But regardless, he still had a pretty excellent day. But it was a pretty rough outing, though, for JJ Slack. He came in relief, 1 2/3, 4 hits, 5 runs, all of them earned. Picked up 3 strikeouts and 1 walk. That took him 35 pitches to get through that. It was a weird outing because his first inning of work was pretty solid, actually, for the most part. I think he gave up a solo home run, and that was it. But once he got into the 9th inning, we even got an out. UCF just went on a hitting parade and made things very interesting because K-State led 8-0 up until the 7th inning. So K-State was kind of coasting, I think, in this one. Blake Dean comes in to try and solve it. He gives up 2 hits. He doesn't get credited with any runs given up, but he was the pitcher when they happened. And so then we have to break glass in case of emergency. And James Guyette, the day after going 47 pitches and 4 1/3, is begged to come in and save us from disaster, which he did. And he gets credit with the save and gets 1 strikeout and 4 pitches, which also Blake Dean, and the 2 hits he gave up, he only had 3 pitches. The very first pitch he had was allowing more runs. So things got very dicey there at the end of the game, but luckily James Guyette was there to clean up everybody's mess.
Yeah, and I think that's the best way to describe it is we had to summon James Guyette after he went 4 1/3 not 2 days earlier, which granted he was just as efficient with this one as he was in the previous one, 4-pitch strikeout. But I mean, very nice. Now let's see the bullpens. Adam Arthur's good. Blake Dean has a really, really high spin rate on his slider. James Guyette is verifiably good, but also college baseball bullpen.
Yeah, that's kind of where we're at right now. The pitching definitely been a sore spot over the last couple of weeks.
But on the offensive side of things, you really have a few notable performances. Seth Dardar going 1 for 4 with an RBI, AJ Vasco with the same stat line. But the big one is KOC, Keegan O'Connor, going 3 for 3 with 3 runs, 2 RBI, and a walk, including a home run. So just a spectacular day for KOC. And then D. Kennedy goes 2 for 4 with 3 RBI of his own and a run. So it was really those two that sort of pushed K-State to the win column here, even though the bats went cold after the 5th inning. It was enough to win, and you take series wins however you get them. But the midweek was nothing more than really big disappointment, I think is probably the best way to say it. Because it was on Flow Sports, and for ethical reasons, we refuse to associate with Flow Sports. And apparently our team does as well, because I don't think that K-State has won an event on Flow Sports, at least no, that's not true. I just hate Flow Sports, and I'm trying to find every single reason possible to make sure that we never end up there again. But K-State ends up dropping both games of the midweek, 11-4 and then 5-3. Errors were the story, as most losses that piss us off are.
Yeah, this was a very rough game for error dislikers, unfortunately. K-State gave up 4 unearned in this game. And granted, that still only brings it down to 7-4 if you're able to fix that. But regardless, it's still a rough one. In case they had several opportunities to figure things out. In case they actually led in this game through the first inning. In case they took a 3-0 lead off of a pair of home runs on the first. But Northeastern just kept chipping away. It was just constant annoyance against our pitching staff, which they were able to take advantage of pretty easily, unfortunately. Had a handful of solid performances. Adam Arthur, he pitched 2 1/3 and did pretty well. But outside of that, Tanner Duke, very unfortunate stat line here, going 3 innings, giving up 5 runs, only 1 earned run, though, which that's just a shame.
That could happen to anybody.
Yeah, that really could happen to anybody. But yeah, the defense, which last year KC had pretty great defense, it's been pretty bad at points this year, which is just extremely frustrating. Several throwing errors. The second inning, we had a throwing error at second base on probably should have been a routine play. Granted, I wasn't able to watch, but this is what I'm able to gather. But anytime you have a throwing error from second base, that's not good because they're not throwing very far, and that's kind of their job is to throw to first base. So it's a disappointing outcome for both of these games. With that first game in particular, I mean, it just like Northeastern is a good baseball team. Like I think they were RPI like in the 50s going into this game, so they are actually a quality opponent. The problem is you have to pick these up, and we've been sputtering as of late. And luckily, non-conference games, so doesn't affect our Big 12 championship aspirations, however realistic they may be. But we do not have much momentum right now, and that's kind of a real thing. So kind of worried about that.
I think the other telling stat, other than the errors, is if you take out those 2 home runs, K-State only had 3 hits, but also Northeastern stole 7 bases against K-State. Whoa, what happened here? Like, because Bear Madliak has been a really solid defensive catcher, especially when it comes to throwing guys out. He just got ran over this game, and that's not a winning formula for any game, much less one where your defense already isn't picking you up. So that's just weird. We couldn't watch the game, again, for ethical reasons, but
And what's also weird is they only had 2 in the next game. So that must have just been a first game thing for some reason. Maybe the wind was blowing in or something like that. I don't know how much that would affect it. It probably wouldn't that much, but I don't know. It's just weird to go from 7 stolen bases to just 2 in the next game when it seemed to be working so well. And they also didn't get caught stealing a single time. So they went 9 for 9 on stolen bases in this 2-game series, which is not good for us, just to be clear.
Yeah. And the next game wasn't a whole lot. I mean, it was better in that the score was closer, 5-3 in favor of Northeastern. But I'll let you take a wild guess as to what the difference in score would be. Yeah, the guess is errors. 3 errors again, and both of the unearned runs end up being the backbreaker that would have, at least let K-State have a chance at extra innings. Plus, you don't know how demoralizing it is for a pitcher to just watch an error happen behind you. Like, that is top 10 in my experience, in my life. When that happened to me, that was like a top 10 most frustrating experience in my life.
Yeah. I imagine that's how our pitchers were feeling in this game. Their very first run and their very last run were scored as unearned. unfortunately. So that is quite literally the difference in this two-run loss. So it's a real tragedy. Pitching was better though in this game. Taz Butler gets the start. Does give up 4 runs, 3 of them earned. Gets a pair of strikeouts. So still not a great day for Taz Butler. JJ Slack though did atone for his sins at the end of the UCF game though. He was really great actually. He went 4 innings, 1 hit, 1 walk, 5 strikeouts, no runs. Then, of course, we had to break glass in case of emergency again with James Guyette. That man's arm is going to fall off before the end of the year. Unfortunate. They got an unearned run off of him. 1 strikeout, 1 walk, 1 hit, 1 fly out, 1 ground out. Lots of ones here for James Guyette. 21 pitches as well. So, but yeah, it's a real dull thud for your pair of midweek games for a team that was at one point, I think 16th in RPI. I haven't had the gall to check.
Oh, I checked. I just checked. I want you to guess.
50.
Not that bad.
Oh, okay. Well, 45.
40.
40. That's actually way better than I thought it was going to
be. Yeah, I thought we were going to just collapse. Northeastern is 44.
Yeah, right, so that's what's helping us there. Obviously, we should have beat at least, we should have won at least one of these games, but luckily Northeastern is a really good team. I mean, unlucky for us because we lost, but also lucky in that at least when we're losing to good squads. The exception of Oklahoma State. I don't know what happened there, but
Stillwater is hell.
Yeah, we're kind of hitting the April doldrums right now for batcats, which seems to happen more often than we'd like. It's kind of like that mid to late February for women's basketball. It kind of feels like so. But this weekend is quite possibly the biggest series that between K-State and KU ever. Like, I don't think there's ever been a more important Sunflower showdown for both sides because KU and K-State are both in a pretty tight race for the Big 12 crown. KU just got swept at TCU, so they're going to be wanting revenge. All 3 games at KU are sold out already. I heard that they were bringing in extra bleachers as well to sell extra spots because people seem to have an idea of how big of a series this is. So this is a like I do not consent to being swept. Like in this series.
No.
Yeah, we're giving an emphatic no. We do not consent. Respect our boundaries to the Jayhawks. You will not sweep us.
Yeah, that's what you have to hope for because I mean KU's 34th in RPI, and you look at the resumes, and as much as it pains me to say, they are pretty similar in terms of like what both teams have gone through. KU's 28-10 total, K-State's 23-14. The biggest difference between them is strength of schedule. K-State has 67th, KU is 109, where you have most of the top RPI is just based off of strength of schedule right now. But K-State is 2-9 against quad 1. KU is 1-6. They have basically identical quad 2 records, 4-1 for KU, 4-2 for K-State. And then quad 3, KU has the advantage 11-2 to 7-3. But KU also has a quad 4 loss this year, whereas K-State is 10-0 against quad 4 teams. So they're very similar on paper. The main, which is hilarious because stylistically they are very different, where KU is very much 3 true outcome, we're hitting dongs, baseball, and K-State is a little more old school with philosophy. So I think it's just going to be sort of a clash of philosophies here, which I want to clarify that I am a generational hater. So I will never, ever root for KU in anything ever. I am, however, very interested to see how this series goes. And yes, I will throw a baby fit if K-State does not win the series.
Yeah, I think I might as well. Throw a baby fit, I mean, because right now the top of the Big 12 is very jumbled. TCU and West Virginia are tied for the lead in the conference right now. West Virginia, they're 31-4. They played a pillow soft non-conference, but they are 10-3 in conference play right now. They're up to RPI 21, so they're finally beating teams with pulses, unfortunately. But TCU just swept KU. That vaulted them to the top. That's a team K-State actually beat down in Arlington. K-State's in a tie with Arizona, 10-5, one game back. And KU is right there. They're tied with Arizona State. They're 2 games back. So the top of the 12 right now is a jumbled mess. And this is going to be an absolutely massive series to figuring that out. And K-State not too long in the future, the kind of beginning to middle part of May, has a 3-game home series against West Virginia as well. So that's another massive one. K-State avoids the Arizonas, thank goodness, but otherwise, there's some big-time, huge implication series here coming up for the Batcats.
Yeah, and the two, I hope that the series that we end up looking to, for better or for worse, ends up being the KU and the West Virginia series and not the Oklahoma State series. Because if we end up looking back at the Oklahoma State series, that means that's what kept us out of the top rounds. And I don't think I could deal with that. I don't think I'm emotionally ready for that.
Yeah, I would not be pleased with that either. But this KU series really, 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 really need to win it, but absolutely all costs do not get swept in this series. Like getting swept in this series, that makes it very difficult to claw your way back in the conference race, and is going to make life pretty difficult for your postseason seeding as well. Like our next series is against Houston. They're RPI 114. That's not a very good squad. You do have that series against West Virginia still, but this KU series is going to be a great opportunity for us to bolster our RPI. And if we want a shot at hosting, we need to win this series, I think. Unless other teams also crumble, we could maybe get away with one game, but it's KU. I want to sweep the series. So let's just do that and not even have to worry about it.
Yeah. Anyway, do you have any final notes?
No, I don't.
All right. Well, if that's the case, thank you all for listening to this episode of the Aggieville Alleycats podcast. If you want to wait, that concludes this episode of the Aggieville Alleycats podcast. Thank you all so much for listening. That's the first time I messed that up in probably a year. If you want to follow or contact the show, you can follow us just about anywhere at Aggieville Alleycats. And if you want to email us, we're AggievilleAlleycats@gmail.com. If you want to follow us on a more personal note, I am at ACEdward00.
I am at Connor Baltasar, capital C, capital B.
And if you want to support the show financially, please be sure to check out the official Aggieville Alleycats merch store, link found in our podcast and Twitter bios. But most importantly, thank you all for listening to this episode of the Aggieville Alleycats podcast. Where come rain, shine, or anything in between, we're here to deliver to you the Kansas State sporting news that you so love. Stay safe, Alleycats.